Should you ever consider buying an auction car that's been involved in some sort of flood or has major water damage? That's gonna be the question for today's video. And I have a prime example of this because I came across this BMW 330i, which I believe is actually the ZHP, which is a very desirable enthusiast car. They didn't make a lot of these, came with the 6-speed manual, and this was a higher trim level. It was like right below the M3, so you get all the bells and whistles, and it's kind of a sleeper in a sense, which makes it a very desirable car. But as you guys will see in today's video, I'm gonna show you all the details that show me that this might be a complete basket case. Not to say that all flood cars are gonna be a basket case, but it could be a huge undertaking for anybody that wants to get into this. A lot of risk is involved already in auction cars, and then adding water into the mix could lead to so many different factors, because sometimes flood damage could be just a little bit of puddle in the carpet, or it could be to the whole entire roof filled with water and it evacuated out, and it turns out to be a complete disaster. So if you guys are enjoying the auction car buying adventures and tips, make sure to let me know down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of this stuff. But I think with that being said, let's go take a look at the car in further detail, and I'll show you what I see. So flood damaged cars aren't a new thing when it comes to buying vehicles. And it's something that you'll see more often in places that go through, catastrophic weather events like hurricanes, tornadoes, monsoons, tsunamis, things of that sort. And a lot of them end up here at an auction, and it could be a very good looking car just like this one. But once you bring water into the mix, it really depends on how much water was involved in the car. Now, some auction places, they'll be kind enough to make a watermark somewhere, maybe usually around the door here, where they saw where the water was when it first came in. But in some cases, you will just never know. And it looks like in this case, that is pretty true. Because usually the mark would be like somewhere here. So like if the water was all the way up to like halfway on the seat, for example, there would be like a yellow chalk mark here that would show, okay, well, the water was here when it first came in, and then it made its way out. But in this one, I think somebody actually was trying to save it so badly. Because again, this is a very, very hard to find car in good shape. The prime examples out there are going for arm and a leg. But this one, somebody took a lot of the trim pieces out to try and resolve what was happening in here. And the first thing you're gonna notice was when you open the door, it's like getting punched in the face with that like mildewy, moistury smell. Kind of smells like a wet used napkin in here. And I think a lot of things that are sticking out to me is that this endured a lot of water. It wasn't just a little bit, because I see that they pulled the carpet not just on the driver's side, but they also pulled it on the passenger side as well. And you can see all of that water that got here and how it's starting to corrode things. And that is never a good sign, especially in a BMW, man, because the electrics on these are already kind of iffy a little bit. The E46 was like kind of right before the major technological advances happened, but there's still quite a bit of tech that was put into these things. And you could see all the wire looms that are completely exposed. And maybe somebody was just trying to dry this off as much as they could just to track down what was happening. I even see little bits of glass in here, which I don't know what that's about. This looks like some form of mold, and that's what's gonna happen too with these flood damaged cars. A lot of mold, a lot of mildew, and a lot of stuff that's really hard to get rid of. You think that, sure, you could wipe all this stuff down and like put it in rice or whatever, but that smell never really goes away. It kind of stays there for long periods of time. You can see a lot of the moisture that's still on the inside of the rear window, for example, and it's all just pooled up here. And usually that's okay to a certain extent, but you could just tell that it hasn't been fully aired out and circulated. But at the same time, it's such a shame because the interior overall, it looks really fabulous. It's just been kind of taken apart and then left here for dead. So I'm sure that a lot of people are gonna be bidding on this one. Even if the drivetrain is okay, it still could be worth it. And I'm sure before the flood or whatever happened with this one, that it was in really nice condition. The body on this is just amazing how clean it is. Even if you were gonna put something else in it, that would be nice. But you have to remember too, that wouldn't really solve a lot of the issues that you're still gonna have with this, right? So even in a perfect world, you got this car and you got a a good like compression test on the engine and stuff like that, it still doesn't mean that it's gonna be any good. So again, the sports leather seats, these are all trimmed out to the nines. Somebody definitely liked it. I mean, they even put the little carbon fiber trim pieces, which are pretty cool. But I just wanted to see in further detail, like how deep the water goes here. And everything is damp. I mean, even me just putting my thumb on this, I'm gonna be respectful and not just like start tearing everything away. But I can see the line for the jump lead, I think that goes to the trunk because that's where the battery's at, is going back there. But when you see stuff like this, that is not a good sign at all. So you can try as much as you can to get rid of all the moisture in here, but I think it's way beyond that. So you're gonna have stuff probably shorting out here. All of these fuses, I'm sure, need to be replaced. I mean, they're all like calcified. You can see it. It's just astonishing, really. And I mean, they really tried their best. Whoever had this before, they really, really wanted to save it. And I mean, it's worth saving 100%, but they tried with all their might and they probably just got so sick of it. They were just like, you know what? I need to get out of this. They pulled all the trim pieces. I mean, this is quite literally everything back here. So maybe it's already drift car ready, you know, but again, it's just a lot of the gremlins of figuring out if this thing would actually run. Because I guarantee you it doesn't run right now. And I think a lot of things would get fried. And you have to remember too, in this instance, we see that there's a lot of electronics that are down here by the floor. So in some cars, you can get away with like, you know, very simple things. But I know for a fact, like on the old Civics, for example, the computer is right here. They put it right there in the corner on this kick panel. Anytime water enters the car, fries the computer. And that's the case for a lot of other vehicles. I think in this one, the DME on the E46, I believe, is up here in the front, but I could be mistaken. On the E36, I know it's for sure, it's right here underneath the windshield cowl. And I made a video a long time ago going over a crank no start on the E36, and that's where they had it. So I'm gonna pop up in the hood because that's really where the prize of this gem comes into play. But another key indicator that shows me that this was like in a big flood, not just like a little one, is already see condensation happening here inside the corner light. Guaranteeing that it's from the flood, but since this is cracked, it's pretty obvious that water got in some way. This is just such a shame, really. I mean, this is a really beautiful car. I just like looking at it, but we'll see what's going on underneath the hood. And then water too, something that happens with the engine is what they call, it gets hydro locked. So very possible that happened with this. And yeah, I could see a lot of the moisture. I noticed too that they removed, there's like this insulation cover that usually goes on the hood. It looks like they took that off because I almost guarantee you it was full of water. It's probably just like a huge sponge because they're kind of like this foamy material that is just helps with like the sound deadening of the engine. And I can just tell already they removed that because it was so bad. You have rust developing on the front of the hood. And then look at all this moisture right here. You see this? That tells you more than you need to know about everything. Exposed jump lead, they probably tried jumping in, they fried something, and then that's why they went to the fuse box and they found out, oh my God, it's a complete disaster. So this looks like a, what, M54? I could be mistaken here, but classic inline six from BMW. These are actually very reliable engines, but anyways, getting back to hydrolock, what happens is if water enters the picture, when anybody's trying to crank this over, it gets into the pistons and it can't compress that water. It will just cause catastrophic damage to the engine and it's pretty much cooked. You probably have to do a replacement or a tear down. Hopefully that wouldn't happen here. What's nice about the E46 at least is they don't have that old school fan. So you don't have to worry about that. It looks like it has the fan over here. Makes it a little bit easier to work on, but in this case, I don't see too much that's been packed down here though, which is a good sign, but I think a lot of it has just been drained out. I'm sure just from sitting for a while, it's okay, but a lot of vegetation, and it just makes me believe that water really made its way through parts it was not supposed to. So this was not like somebody like, oh, you know, the carpet got wet and I took it here. This was like a really extensive project for somebody to try and figure out what is going on. Can I open this? I think I can't because it's electric. So, okay, so you can't even open the trunk because it's BMW, of course. But again, I think that a lot of this mold and mildew, you'll be chasing it forever. You could get this for a cheap price, but then there's other people, they have the same exact idea, and they're like, oh, well, I can save it, I can save it. And then this might turn into a bidding war and everybody and their grandma wants to go after it. But again, it could be worth it sometimes. I do think some other flooded cars can be, you know, ones that you could come up for a crazy deal. But this one is just not giving me any vibes of that. This feels like this one might just be too far gone or just too much of a headache. Personally, for me, I mean, if you are a flood car genius, and I'm sure there's people out there that could do this, then this may be the one. I was gonna sit in it because the seat looks okay, but I do just want to be wary because it's very moldy, mildewy, smelly, and probably not the best just for my own health and well-being. I've actually felt unwell from sitting in some of these really gross cars. So this is something that I've just been kind of navigating through as I do this stuff for you guys. But again, M-spec wheel, all the bells and whistles for the 330 ZHP from the time. Very nice cars, very smooth. I mean, my friend Ray has one of these, and his is the 328i, and man, this thing is just so sweet on the highway. It's a very smooth car. So, is this gonna be the one to buy? For me, in my personal opinion, no. This is gonna be the one that I walk away from, and that's totally fine. But I do think that somebody out there is gonna be bidding on this, thinking that they could put it back together, and maybe they can, but I just think you are gonna be tracking all this stuff down. I mean, it makes you wonder if like you could just put this thing in a huge vat of rice for like a month and then you can come back and reassess it. But with all the fried stuff from the fuse box, all the relays, all the trim pieces taken off for the wiring looms to trace down the moisture, man, you're gonna be at it for a long period of time. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this one, and if you think it's worth saving or if it's just, you know, a nice looking paperweight. But anyways, I appreciate you guys and I'll catch you in the next one.